I say. Playing with my dog. So that attacks continue. I don't let them get me. Today they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use. A people, better said young people, also children and homosexuals. When I aggravated them I usually called demeaning names, and one of them is referring to homosexuals. For me all of the slaves are misfits, society haters, scumbags etc. No, I don't have anything personal against them, homosexuals, but as my way to aggravated the slaves, and since they love to use children for the torture and stalking, street theater etc. Especially teenagers for the stalking at close range with an attitude, they are using them during my sleep in the perversion program, and so you can imagine what the slaves of torture are pretending to do to me. In the last days, as today September 9th, '07, anything I do, either watching TV or reading of whatever I'm doing, they brush me sort of say, I feel like I'm aroused all day and I feel the palpitations in my genitals, for what I'm thinking, and since the attack comes so quickly, I realized my programming has been set on auto, in their central computers, no handlers could do something like this that quick. What make me realized, the slaves are desperate to get me. Unfortunately for them they are facing a strong wall where no matter how much their computers EAP me, I know I'm not changing. As I said, I feel like they've been set up a beam where I feel constantly stimulated. I'm talking sexually, like a heat in my genitalia, like getting aroused constantly, trying to make me feel uncomfortable, because it doesn't stop.
Okay. I've made a clear pattern of what they do to me. The reason why I've been making videos is because initially it was just to talk about what's happening to me, my testimonials. Some of my first testimonials consist of how they manipulate my perceptions, my libido, how I react to things, how I see things, how my perceptions have been changed and I get reactions to this. They go all the way back to 2020. Last year in 2022, they did this. They always do things. Every day there's something. If I look at a kid or anybody who looks like a kid, they're going to make me have some stimulations, right? And right now they try to bring up something they did to me just last year, right? I'm here in the same apartment. I have the same torture happening to me. And they use this moment. It's like, now we proved it because this is real. But then I've already made like a good 50 videos, a good 58 videos, all talking about perception, sexual stimulations, all kind of things like that, right? Libido being manipulated. So now when they bring this thing, I'm like, oh, so you're saying that everything I've been saying even before that day happened was before, and that day was delusional. What they're bringing up and what you're seeing there, right? I added some more picture over there. You see like a picture of a grown person. You see an older man. Those are the people here supposed to make you accept these things, because all these things happen to you and they want you to accept, right? I understand what I mean, right? I understand who's in charge. I understand really what's really there. This is what you see as a psyop, and some of them play the psyop in that they live in a fantasy and they really think they're winners, right? They're like, oh, we're gonna win. It's like, winning what? I'm a civilian that is a subject in a development of a technology that can rewire your brain, override your brain, and have perceptions manipulated, which you're gonna hear. Stimulations can be manipulated, all kind of manipulations. I'm a subject who can do nothing about these things because I'm the subject. These bottom feeders have been constructed. They've created psyops like there's some kind of femme fatale group of strong, and they're like, the one in green just yell out, oh, you at the end, I'm dying. It's like, I'd rather be dying. This is dignified. Don't you think this is kind of like spiritually like dignified? You are trying to make me accept these manipulations, which I've called out before I even met you. And today you even bringing up manipulations that I've called out even before that specific manipulation happened. And you think I'm going to let you live your fantasy? But on top of that, these people, the entities that are in charge, are filled with actual pedophiles. While me, they have to manipulate me and give me all kind of manipulations. I've said this many times. There is a sense of dignity. Because I understand they're going to try to gaslight you. Oh no, this is real. And then I hear this like 14-year-old sounding trash tell me like, and she's a perp. I shouldn't call her trash. A perp. tried to tell me, no, but there's something. It's like, yes, there's something. It's you in my brain manipulating me to experience something. They did this thing with an older kid. Well, it's one of, I remember I was going through, it's always how they mess with me. And now I'm so scared to go through like Instagram. I slowly go because you know those like real, whatever, where they dance. They've done that to me toward like there was like this like 14-year-old Indian that like messing me with, and there was this older kid where he didn't like based on looking at her, he's like late teen, early adulthood. You don't know, right? They gave me this intense stimulation. Very pretty girl, good for her. But I know this is forcing to me, right? It's like you forcing me, and she's dancing in a kind of sexual way. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this intense feeling because she's like, she looked like she looks really young, and either like late teen or like obviously, know me. It's like this is too intense. I was like, this is crazy. It's like this must be a kid. I look at her profile. It's like she's like 17 years old. You look at her in the profile pictures because sometimes the videos and versus reality is different. You see this little skinny like this is a baby. They're intensive. They were forcing me to get stimulations because she's a kid. And they're like, oh, but did you guess her age? What? What in the F? Am I supposed to be like guessing people's age now? Obviously, I know who I am. And they're like, you see, this is coming. It's like, listen, if you can do that to people who are obviously children, like 10-year-old, 12-year-old, there's a 9-year-old kid here that would try to make me look at it in a sexual way. A 9-year-old. So the older kids who can actually look like a young adult or something like that, of course you can do. It's like the closer to somebody looking actually like a woman, the easier it is for them to make me perceive that person in a sexual way. If a older kid look closer like an adult, they're going to be easier for them to manipulate me in this sexual way. And when you look at her, like it was so intense. It was so forced. Like I felt like this intense feeling. Like, whoa, that was so intense feeling I just felt. And you look at her profile picture because the videos they have this like real. It's different. It is close. You see the picture of them, like, oh my gosh, this is like a slim look, like slim, skinny, typical teenager. But in the video, she kind of look a little bit older. Right, it kind of is harder to kind of perceive her properly, and she's dancing sexually, so they can easily create some kind of sexual perception because she can be, you might look at her maybe a young adult or whatever, or late teenage, and it's just like, but they can force me to experience stimulations easier than the younger kids. I've been making videos about how they can manipulate me, but the thing is, everything they do to me have been done to others. You literally listen to a woman saying that they forced me to have this program of perversion, and they aim them toward children or people, young people or children. Literally saying that. This is a woman. It's like for her, imagine forcing her to be stimulated toward young, like giving her stimulations. And to the point where they like specify on teenagers for her. For me, I'm like, I know, I look at her, guessing her age exactly, maybe not. Maybe I'll guess maybe a year, like my guessing, who knows? I could guess a little bit wrong, whatever, but I will not have this stimulation. I'm not here to guess people's age, but she looks like a young person. I don't know how young. She was just only 17 years old. And that's why they were giving me this intense feeling. I was like, what? And then when you look at her, oh my gosh, she's tiny, little skinny. Like, listen, I'm into people who look womanly. She doesn't even look womanly. She's like a little skinny, little, like typical teenager. When I went on her profile, I was like, oh my gosh, she doesn't even look like in a video, you look like she was. But you see her and it's like, oh my gosh, she's not even. It's obviously they manipulate me. They play with my perceptions. But playing with perception, that's onto somebody who's older. As a kid, older teenager versus the babies is just different. They did this thing where they made me look at a 9-year-old in this sexual way. A 9-year-old, that's actually a baby. So like a 17 kid, they can do even more. I understand. That's what they do. And then you see her profile pictures like, pfft. Now they're like, no, we proved it. You see, that's like, oh, I know who I am. I understand you can make me look at kids in different disturbing ways, younger kids than her. So her, who's like an older kid, you can do much more because she's closer to an adult. And you can make me perceive this kid like an adult, like a young adult. because she's not too much from being a young adult. And so that's, and when you see her pictures, you realize it. But the thing is, these people around you, these people who tell me die, you're dying. I was like, I'd rather be dying. This is dignified. Do you know how much me? Like, I'm not perfect. I know my imperfection, very much so. But for you, who work for entities that's filled with pedophiles, you are here manipulating men and women to look at kids in these sexual ways. You think I'm going to let you live your fantasy? Listen to the testimonies. I'm being validated beyond nth. In so many ways, I'd rather rot away than be rotten like this trash. Some of them are going to die before me. Who? They don't know. But they've been watching me die. I'd rather rot. Because these people are rotten. To all my target individuals, stay strong.
They're trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. It's disgusting. Take this whole thing into account so much and make it so dramatic. It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. This disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know.
Often see highly disturbing pornographic images and videos, including highly disturbing pedophilia type of images and videos when I close weapons. In 2015, I began to experience what some call V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted and sexual, as well as destructive and violent.
Any part of the body. This technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal, or it can sort of turn off the.
I am currently a speech-language pathologist working in private practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism, and she was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic, and they used her to threaten the most torture in me, as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions, despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, "Ow," and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day, I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months
had sexual contact with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old, he was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent. I think that you mentioned that. Posing as a child, he had his contract revoked. One CIA staffer was charged with child sexual crimes, and the employee was also under investigation for mishandling classified material. The CIA did not answer detailed questions saying,
That's the thing. The rest of the cases, they were sent back to the CIA to handle them internally. Where are you?
Well, don't worry, Stephen. I think a few of them were fired.
Yeah, well, the rest that's the thing. The rest of the cases, they were sent back to the CIA to handle them internally, whatever the hell that.
Where do you
about
think
that.
you
The
work?
CIA.
That must mean there is such a lack of fearing any sort of accountability. For crying out loud. While on assignment, 1,400? You must have not been doing any job.
Well, even if you had to look at it to make sure you knew what it was, don't you just need to look at one?
Right.
You're like, I better check the other 1,399
double-checking.
just to be safe.
Yes, I better
Each
check the other
file.
1,300 labeled tax things.
Unbelievable.
Oh my goodness.
And the guy with the 6-year-old?
Disgusting.
Twice.
Yeah, twice.
Twice with the 6-year-old.
So and here's the scariest part. Out of the 10 instances that are described in the report, only one person was ever charged with anything.
Yeah.
With anything. Comment below. Do you guys know this story? This should be catnip for the media, right? Think about it. You've got this lewd behavior. You've got corruption at the highest levels of government, right? Aaron Brockovich, something about fake tits and tap water.
Yeah.
The CIA, raping children and sexually assaulting children, and they're not being prosecuted? Where are you?